So good evening everybody. I'm Dipanjan Ghosh. Today I want to discuss a chapter that is plant growth and development. So first of all I want to make a differentiations between growth and development. So growth basically denote the physical development, whereas development is a terminology which is used uh, to mention the autotile development throughout its journey of life, that is from birth, that is from zygote to death. In that time durations there is a change of the total growth, all type of growth, differentiation, maturation, reproductions. So everything will be included within development. And we know at that time the morphological and physiological changes occurs during that time to the human body, and that is also found in case of basically in case of Piancey. What we see basically zygote, from zygote to meristematic tissue, and that particular meristematic tissue we go through the cell division process. As a result, the number of cells become increase, and then the differentiation processes actually proceeds, and uh, and then the shape and size of a cell we increase. Then the maturations of cell occur that can lead to a mature cell, which go to the death through the senescence process. So this is all about phenomenon of a plant cell development. And if we go through the growth, then basically growth denotes basically the shape, size, and the and whenever the dry weight is actually increased, then it will be denoted as a say your dry weight is actually increased, then it will be denoted as the growth. And if we classify growth, then if we go to the types of growth, then we see that growth has been classified on the basis of nature, on the basis of on the ratio of development of organs, on the basis of durations of growth, according to the phases of growth, and according to the growth of cells. So first I want to discuss about the growth on the basis of nature. On the basis of nature, that is where the growth is actually observed. Basically, first growth is the vegetative or somatic growth, whenever the growth is in the somatic cell, and the reproductive growth, whenever the growth is actually found to the reproductive part, and there is sometimes whenever there will be some degenerations, that is whenever there is degeneration, then that particular cell is regenerated. So that's why some regenerative growth also found during that period. And on the basis of ratio of development of organs, we see two types of growth. One is the isometric growth, whenever the parts of our body we grow in the same proportion. For example, in case of fish, so that isometric growth is actually found. And whenever the different parts of our body will not grow to the same proportions, then it will be denoted as the iometric growth. Basically, when it will be found to the embryonic stage of human up to 2 months. And on the basis of durations of growth, basically we see two types of growth. One is determinate growth, and another is the indeterminate growth. Determinate growth is actually observed for a certain time, a definite time. So that's why it is called the determinate growth. And indeterminate growth, that growth is basically found up to the before the death of a plant or anything. So that's why it is called the indeterminate growth. And according to the phases of growth, that is the growth is either continuous or discontinuous. On the basis of that, we have classified it into two categories. One is continuous growth, and other is the discontinuous growth. And according to the growth of says, it have been classified into three category. One is the auxentic growth, whenever the say volume is actually increased instead of say number. In case of ascaris we see the say volume is increased but the say number do not increase. Multiplicative growth, such type basically indicate the multiplications of the say number. uh, in pre-embryonic stage we can find that type of particular growth. And the accretionary growth basically found to the matrix of the connective tissue. uh, we, we see that type of particular growth. So on the basis of according to the growth of says, it has been classified into auxentic growth, multiplicative growth, and accretionary growth. But the auxentic growth will differ from multiplicative growth, that we, whenever the say volume will be increased but the say number will not increase, then it will be denoted as auxentic growth, whereas whenever the number of say will be more, then it will be denoted as the multiplicative growth. And if we measure the plant growth, that is actually measurement of plant growth is actually done by different apparatus such as arc indicator or oxanometer, horizontal microscope, and we know pace marker. So in case of arc indicator, there is an indicator by which basically that indicator uh, determine to a particular hour how much growth basically we can determine it by that indicator. And we know there are different phases of plant growth, that is phases of cell divisions or formations. First of all, we know basically the meristematic tissue, that is the portions where in case of plant cell, first of all the in apical portions the meristematic tissue started in divisions. Mm, so the mitosis is the process by which the cell divisions occurs. That is the which this is called the phases of cell division, the first stage of plant growth. And since the second, the elongation phase is actually come, then the cell volume become enlarged, and we know basically to that particular times the cell is actually become thick due to depositions of cellulose. And basically we see the vacuoles are free up by the sap to that particular time. And we know after the elongation phase the maturation phase is actually come, and to that particular maturation phase the differentiation process is actually done. We know the vascular bundle, that is the xylem phloem scaenchyma is actually formed during the time. And if we just plotted that growth pattern, and that growth if we plot it into a graph paper, then we get a growth curve which denotes the S-shaped growth curve. Basically there will be yog phase, emitted growth phase, and stationary phase. Four types of phase is basically found. So if we make a graph on that is the increase of diode with iterations of time, then we get a S-shaped, S-shaped growth curve. And that S-shaped growth curve basically denotes the yog phase, emitted growth phase, and we know stationary phase. And we can also calculate the growth of yeast bacteria or anything cases by the formula, that is basically W1 equal to W0 into e to the power RT, where W1 indicated the um, the um, the amount of say after the divisions, and W0 indicate the primary number of says before divisions. Is the base of natural yolk, the value of E is 2.71, T is the time, R is the growth rate. And we see that the value of R basically will be proportional with the growth rate. So by that process we can calculate the growth of unicellular organisms or plant. That is, the formula is W1 equal to W0 into e to the power RT. And though the growth of multicellular plants that will differ from that the growth pattern, and there the equations will be capital AT equal to H0 plus RT, where H0 is the first level of length and R is the rate of growth. And so we see there is a difference between, that is, the one is the arithmetic growth and another is the geometric growth. In case of arithmetic growth, what have we seen? Basically we have seen that the growth rate is constant, um, and in case of geometric progressions, we know basically the growth rate actually increase uh, with the indicator. And in case of arithmetic progressions, the growth is basically for a large time. And and in case of arithmetic growth, we see basically where what happened, it will give a linear curve. We found a linear curve. If we plot in x-axis the time and in growth pattern to the y-axis, then we have got a linear. That is y equal to mx plus c. We have get such type of progressions. Whereas in case of geometric progressions growth, there we see the z-shaped growth pattern. The arithmetic growth is basically found in case of root and stem. That is the growth of root, and growth of stem is basically arithmetic growth. Whereas whereas